Alright, in this lesson, we're going to talk about social engineering and malware. This is our first security lecture that we're going to talk about covering the security domain in the A+ certification. So we'll get started. So what is social engineering? Well, social engineering consists of lots of different things that we do, where essentially we're doing non-technical solutions to get you to give us access to your systems. Okay, that's kind of the easiest way to think of it. We can do things like pretexting or phishing. We can use some technical solutions like a Trojan horse. You do things like baiting or tailgating or shoulder surfing. We'll talk about each of these more in depth as we go through this lesson. So pretexting. Pretexting occurs when somebody, actually the social engineer, calls up somebody and they give you a pretext. And what a pretext is for instance, say you're the receptionist, like this young lady here, and I call up and I say, "Hi, my name's Jason. I'm from the IT department. I was told you have a problem with your computer. I need you to verify what your username and password is." Okay? Now you're all probably thinking, dummy, don't give a username and password over the phone, right? But you'd be amazed at how many times that works. Very, very easy to do. About 1 out of 3 in research has shown, because people inherently want to be helpful. Okay, we want to be helpful. That's our human nature. And so a lot of times we will do something like that, where we'll just call up and say, "Hey, I'm from the internet service provider. Can you just verify your IP address for me?" And like, "Oh, that sounds legit." Okay. So go into your command prompt, type in ipconfig, tell me what your IP address is, and they'll tell you that. And now you know what the way to get back into them remotely. And now you can start attacking them and find a vulnerability and get in. So it's a way to get information for us to do a further on attack. Pretexting is I use a little bit of information I know about you to get a lot of information from you. One of the old techniques that used to be used a lot by scam artists was they would call up the receptionist and say, "Hey, I'm calling from XYZ toner company. I need to verify your model of your laser printer because your boss ordered some toner." And she goes, "Oh, no problem. I have a model HP 4250N. "Okay, no problem. I see you. I verify. Yep, so you have a HP 4250N. I'll make sure we get 5 things of toner sent to your office. No problem." A couple days later, UPS shows up, drops off 5 things of toner. Everything seems legit, right? Well, what ends up happening is instead of charging them $50 per toner cartridge like they would pay at Staples, they charge them $500 per toner cartridge. And she just received shipment because guess what? She was expecting 5 things of toner because she just talked to the guy on the phone. And she signs for it. And now that company's liable for that bill of $2,500 for those 5 cartridges that they could have spent $250 for at Staples, right? They use a little bit of information pretexting to get you into the scam. Okay? So you just gotta be careful with this stuff. Best rule of thumb, don't answer questions over the phone, right? If the guy says he's from IT, tell him to come to your desk. Okay? You should come to your desk, show you a badge, show you that he works for IT. And again, even the IT guys, they have no need to ever need your password. If he needs to do something with their password, he should have you go type it in for him, right? You don't give him your passwords. Second thing we're going to talk about is phishing. This is, technically a technical attack because you'll get a fake email or a fake website as used to lure you into providing your username, your password, your bank or credit card details. Okay. So if we look at phishing, I'm sure you guys have all gotten these things. You get a thing from your bank that says, "Oh, Bank of America customer, we've had a recent data breach. We need to verify your username and password. Click here to log into your account." And you click the link and it takes you to a site that looks like Bank of America. Okay. And then you put in your username and password and it may even log you in to your Bank of America because it'll forward that over. But what you actually did was log into the bad guy's website. He now has your username and password. And now he can go in later and take out your money out of your account. The funny thing about this is when they do phishing, they're doing broad strokes against the community, right? So for instance, if I sent out an email to everyone in this class that said, "Bank of America customers," how many of you guys are Bank of America customers? 1, 2. So 2 out of 7 of us have Bank of America. So the other 5 of us would go, "I'm not a Bank of America customer. This must be junk. Delete." Those 2 may go, "Oh, I'm a Bank of America customer. It may be real," and click the link, right? Big thing on phishing, never click the links, okay? I'll show you guys how easy it is to phish and, basically trick somebody into clicking a link, and the link will look legit, okay? Always, if you get something like that, call your bank directly. Go to bankofamerica.com directly. You fat finger it into the keyboard. Don't click the links, because they will get your information. You can look at who's sending the emails. If it came from Bank of America, it should say customer service at bankofamerica.com or something like that. But even that can be falsified. Okay? It's not hard to falsify that information. So I will tell you, never ever click the link, right? Always type it in manually. Because if you really had been breached and you go to Bank of America's website or whoever your bank is, I'm just using this as an example, and you put in your username and password, it'll have an alert as soon as you log in. "Hey, your account's been compromised. Do something," right? Trojan horse. So we also call these Trojans. Basically, a Trojan horse is a program that claims to be a useful utility or a game or something else but it actually has harmful stuff built into it as well. Things like spyware, remote access tools, or rootkits. So in the old days, we used to have this thing called back orifice. This is like pre-2000 time frame. And you'd send it to your friend, and it's basically a hacker tool. You'd be like, hey, here's a copy of Tetris, right? And they'd put it in their computer, load it up, and then it would actually make a connection back to your computer. And then you could open and shut their CD-ROM drive. You could play sounds for them. You could flip their monitor upside down so the screen was inverted. You could do all sorts of weird stuff. Send messages to him, just play with him, right? That's a Trojan horse. We told him that it was Tetris, and when he loaded the program, he could play Tetris. But at the same time, it's running this malicious code in the background that I can then access. We still have lots of Trojan horses out there. They are very, very popular. Another name you might hear this called is what's called a remote access tool, or RAT, R-A-T. On the CompTIA A+ exam, they're going to reference it as a Trojan or a Trojan horse. When you go into Security Plus or ethical hacking, we'll call those RATs, remote access tools. Baiting. So, baiting is the act of leaving some physical media, such as a CD, a DVD, or a thumb drive, laying around for somebody else to find. So, we're all kind of curious people, right? And you know what they say about curiosity? They killed the cat. One of the techniques that people will do is they'll put malicious software onto something like a thumb drive. And nowadays, people may not be as applicable to this to work, but if you think back in like 2006, 2007, 2008 time frame, thumb drives were a little pricey, right? And so if you found a thumb drive sitting in the parking lot, you'd probably pick it up and you'd probably go ahead and put it in your computer to format it and use it. Well, when you put it in your computer, there's a thing called auto run that Windows does, where it automatically starts running programs off of the flash drive. And so what would end up happening is you put it in your computer to see what's on it, and I'm already starting to run the malware. Okay, so this is what we call baiting. I just leave them in places like if I wanted to go hack Bank of America, I may leave it right outside the Bank of America's manager's parking space. And somebody gets out of the car, he's like, oh, look, a thumb drive. I wonder who lost this. Let me go see what's on it, right? This was actually very typical around military bases and military installations. We used to find these things all over the place. And it was a way to bait people so they would take it back and plug it into the military network so bad guys could get it to the network, okay? So baiting is, USB drives, CDs, DVDs. You find it and you're like, I wonder what's on it. You put it in the drive. You just loaded bad stuff up. Tailgating. So tailgating is a physical security threat for us. So a lot of our places, we have barriers or door locks or something like that to keep people out of our secure facilities. For instance, in this classroom, we have the little RFID badge swipe to get in and out of the classroom. Now, before we come in, they open the door for us and we can get in and out all day. But if we came in after hours, you have to have a badge to get into this facility. What the tailgating is say I'm an authorized user and I have my badge and I swipe my badge, and as I'm walking through the door, Sarah walks right behind me, right? She just follows me through. Or have you guys ever seen like a Disney World, right? That got these awesome turnstiles. And they only are supposed to let one person go through, right? But if I can swipe and I go through and you kind of walk through with me, we both can get through on one swipe. That's the idea. You're basically following closely behind somebody who is authorized without their consent. Piggybacking is a lot like tailgating. The only difference is that I'm consenting to do it for you, right? So you give me the story of, oh, I left my badge at my desk. Can you let me in? Oh, sure. Let me let you in. And I swipe and we both go through, right? But both of them are very, very similar to each other. Tailgating and piggybacking. It's a way to get through our physical security boundaries. Shoulder surfing. This is where Nosy Nancy comes in, right? You're sitting there working on the computer, and as you're sitting there, she comes over to say hi to you, and she's looking at your screen. While they're looking at your screen, they're getting access to information they probably shouldn't have, right? Maybe they don't have access to the stuff that you're working on that particular project that has confidential information. They're looking over your shoulder, looking at either your hands as you're typing or at your screen of what you're typing. So maybe I'm putting in my password and you're looking at my hands and going, oh, he's typing in his password. It's PASSWORD. His password's password, right? That's shoulder surfing. Basically using it, it's kind of a coercive technique. And a lot of times you can be talking to somebody and kind of looking at what they're doing, right? You may be taking a test in school, and as you're taking a test in school, you're kind of looking over out of the corner of your eye at the guy's computer screen next to you to see what he's typing. That's shoulder surfing, right? You're not supposed to be looking at his screen. Malware. So, malware is a general term for all sorts of bad technical stuff, right? We have things like viruses and worms. We have Trojan horses that we talked about earlier. We have rootkits, spyware, remote access, adware, brayware, and spam. We're going to talk about each of these as we go through what each of these are from a technical perspective. Viruses, worms, and Trojan horses. So all of these are are part of the malware category. And malware stands for malicious software. It's just a shortened term that we use nowadays. Viruses are a program that infect your operating system files, and they can wreak havoc on your system because they'll allow an attacker to go through and destroy things based on the coding they've done. It replicates as well, which is why we call them viruses, and they spread from computer to computer, okay? Worms, they're very similar to viruses, but they have the ability to do what's called self-replication. So with a virus, I have to actually do something to spread that virus. Maybe that something is I send you an email, and that email has the attachment, and that virus is in it, right? Maybe I sent you a picture of like, hey, check out this funny picture, and inside that picture is an embedded virus. Worms, on the other hand, once your computer has it, it starts going out across the network and tries to spread itself. So they're a little bit more complicated to write, but they're a lot more effective. And then Trojan horses we talked about before, that's something that does one thing. It says it's supposed to be one thing like a game, but it does that plus some malicious stuff as well. So you're allowed to hide tools inside of those. And again, the best thing to do to prevent these things is good antivirus, anti-malware solutions. If you have a good up-to-date antivirus, anti-malware solution, you'll stop 90 to 95% of these type of things. A rootkit. A rootkit is a method that we use for malware to conceal that malware. It actually goes in and embeds itself into the lower system operating system files or part of the boot partition, so that every time you turn on the computer, it actually starts up first. This allows it to prevent detection by any virus or any malware solutions. So if you have a normal, Windows Defender, it's not going to find rootkits because rootkits are installed before Windows even starts up. And so it may actually attack the same files that run Windows Defender. Okay? And so if you want to get these, usually you have to get them using a ANSI rootkit type CD where you can search for them and know what you're looking for. And you'll boot from the CD or DVD and then do your scan that way. Very, very hard to get these things cleaned out of your system. Spyware. Spyware is software that's going to spy on your system activities, and it transmits those details back to a remote computer. Spyware in itself is not necessarily malicious, but it is an invasion of your privacy. A lot of times, spyware is trying to get information based on your cookies, what websites you visited, what things you look at. An example that, maybe not necessarily spyware, but kind of the same concept. You go on Facebook nowadays, right? The ads that you get are very targeted to you, right? So for instance, a couple months ago, I was doing some home improvement in my house. I went to Home Depot and I was looking for this splash guard from, marble splash guard to go behind my sink in the master bathroom. They didn't have any in stock, so I closed the web browser. I went off and did some other stuff. The next day on Facebook, in my advertisement, it shows up, at Home Depot on sale, that particular item that I was looking for. And, it's targeted advertising based on my previous web searches. And Facebook looked and sees what those cookies were and sees what I've been searching for. Spyware does that from a program level, collects all that data and then sends it back to whoever that bad guy is. And a lot of this is just to collect data repositories on people and see what their browsing habits are and what they can then target them with. Okay. So spyware is trying to see what you're doing. It can be innocuous like that, just trying to advertise to you, or they could be spying on things like your bank account details. They could be spying on things such as your passwords and usernames, right? So we don't want spyware on our computer, but it's not always necessarily a evil, malicious thing. Sometimes it's just an advertising thing. Remote access. Remote access is a program that allows remote control or unauthorized control of your system. So we talked about in Windows that we use remote access as technicians all the time. That's authorized, right? A customer calls me and says, hey, take control of my computer, fix my problems. That's fine. Additionally, you can have something like this where a bad guy installs a Trojan with a remote access tool on your system, right? And now he can take remote control of your system and go through and get your data and do stuff to your system, okay? So this can be used to set networks of compromised remote leaders, also known as botnets. We'll talk more about botnets in a little while as well. But essentially, your computer becomes a zombie in this botnet where we can use your processing power and your memory to do malicious attacks against other people. So remote access, it doesn't have to be graphical. It can be text-based. Any way that I can remotely access your computer and change things falls into this category. So adware, grayware, and spam. These are not necessarily malware from a traditional sense, but they're more annoyance, right? So adware is software that constantly displays pop-up ads on your computer. It also can do banners, and this is related to your web searcher activities. Like I was talking about that Facebook, right? You're getting these advertisements based on other things you see. In the old days, we used to have an internet service provider called Net Zero, and they would give you free dial-up internet access, and in exchange, you agreed that they would have a banner at the top of your bar. They would advertise to you the entire time. That's how they made their money. That was adware supported software. So it wasn't necessarily bad, it was just kind of annoying, right? Grayware. Grayware is a term that's stuff that's not necessarily malicious, but it's things like joke programs, dialers, adware, spyware. They all can fall into this, that they're not bad, so they're not malware, but they're not good either. So they're kind of gray. They're not white, they're not black, they're kind of in the middle. And then spam, you guys are all probably familiar with. It's unwanted emails sent by unknown entities. So you get those things in your inbox saying, I love the ones that tell me to increase my breast size by 2 cup sizes, because I'm a guy and I don't want that. My wife loves it when she gets the ones about Viagra to give her a longer, harder, whatever. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. She's a woman. But again, it's unwanted. They don't know who you are. They're just sending out to millions and billions of people at a time because somebody's going to click on, right? And that's all it comes down to, right? Or I'm sure we've all seen the Nigerian prince scam, right? I'm a Nigerian prince. I have, a couple $1 million I need to launder. I'll give you $1 million of it if you can get it through the U.S. Customs and Treasury. All I need you to do is send me $5,000 for taxes, right? It's usually not 5,000, it's usually like $5,328, some very specific number, so it sounds legit, right? I hate to break it to you guys, there is no Nigerian prince that wants to give you his money, okay? Don't fall for that stuff. That's just spam and into a scam. Simple question. A user receives an unsolicited call from a technician claiming to be from a Microsoft certified partner. The technician tricks the user into allowing them access to their PC because the malware alerts that were being broadcasted. Which of the following attacks is the user a victim of? Are they a victim of shoulder surfing, of phishing attack, social engineering, or malware infection? Social engineering, right? And this kind of includes a couple of them that we talked about, right? First, he's pretexting. He's going, oh, hey, I'm from Microsoft. I'm here to help. Well, how many people have a Microsoft computer? About 9 out of 10, right? 92% of the users are using Microsoft. So that's a pretty safe pretext, right? And then he says, oh, just give me remote access to your computer, right? You've been hacked. If you do this, I can take over and I can fix it for you, right? You go in there to give him access, and what ends up happening is you just gave the bad guy access, right? My mom actually got one of these calls, and she actually started following through in about 30 minutes into the call. She's like, I don't feel right. She hung up on the guy. She calls me, and I'm like, you idiot. No. And by the time she called me, she had already given him remote access so that he was able to use, it wasn't even that he used malicious software. She gave him remote access, right? Because she thought he was a trusted Microsoft person. And really, he was some guy in India that was just taking control of her computer so he could steal that and install bad things and do bad stuff to it. Because I will tell you this, Microsoft doesn't call you. They're too busy. You got to call them, okay? They're not going to call you and say, we detected that you've been hacked, right? You call them when you have a problem. They don't call you. So if you ever get those calls, that's social engineering. They're using a pretext of the fact that you have a Microsoft operating system. Because most of you guys do.